there was a lot less noise too walking around.
Well, just come walk where we are near the Beltline, and you'd not know that people are staying inside.
Really, I feel like I hear a lot more birds these days. I don't know if they were just drowned out before or if they were just really loud now.
Yeah, well, I think if you're away from the Beltline, it is definitely quieter, but not if you're near it.
All right. Well, I think we've had a good grace period here for folks to join, and hopefully some more people will be joining us. So using
give me a second to mute everyone, okay?
All right.
Okay. All right.
I will call the meeting to order. That didn't ring so well. Let's try again. All right. All right, so welcome everyone to our May 11 meeting of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. We've got a fantastic, beautiful day for this meeting. We've got a fascinating speaker. The only way it could be better would be if we were meeting in person and having some chocolate pie from the City Club. So just a reminder, our ringmaster Valerie has got everyone on mute. So raise your hand in a virtual way if you want to ask a question of the speaker, or you can type in, and Linda and Val, I believe, are getting those messages. I'll turn the meeting over to Charles Edwards for our invocation and the pledge.
Thank you, President Jim. 'Twas 75 years ago when celebrations were in full swing, for Europe after 6 long years was finally free. But after a mere 60 days of battle, many are angry and upset. Do we really uphold the blood-bought freedom available to you and me? We will beat this dreadful COVID with grace and not with gloom. For as Rotarians, we seek to help others, even as we are locked in our rooms. But now the tide is turning, ever so slightly it is said, through patience, hope, and praise to our frontliners who answered the call. They look ahead. We can go our different ways or think of better times not long since gone. But I say, by working all together, we will see the new dawn. Does my hopefulness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I enjoy the freedom around me here in my living room. Thank you. Please join me in a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm sorry I can't see all of the guests, but I understand we have a number of them. Is that correct?
We have a couple from Southeast Raleigh.
Great. Super. Please introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon, this is Gwen Swenson.
Okay.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Sharon DeCosta here. How's everyone doing?
Hi, Sharon. Good to see you again.
Hi. Thank you.
Anybody else?
This is Gwen Swenson.
Hey.
Hi, Gwen. It's good to hear your voice.
Well, it's good to be heard. I'm driving today, so I won't be able to see you, but I'm glad to be with you.
Oh, yeah.
Can hear you very clearly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glad.
Yeah.
Do we have any other guests? All right.
And if I can, just before I get off and mute, for the members, I've received about 35 completed surveys. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete. Please complete it, because this is essential for the club as we plan or update our strategic plan, which is now almost 8 years old, and we need to update it. So again, there's 8 questions, takes less than 10 minutes per Survey Monkey, so please complete it as quickly as possible. With that, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, let's have Cart Bucket and Happy Dollars. So we ask anyone with spare change or even better folding money to make a virtual pledge, which you can do through Linda. She will just bill it to you so it's easy as it can be. So we want to continue to donate to fight Alzheimer's and dementia. But also we have Happy Dollars today. And so anyone who's got some happy news as the gloom is breaking, as our Chief Administrator Charles Edwards told us in his wonderful poem, there's bound to be some happy news out there. All right, people are shy here online. We don't have shyness when we're actually meeting in person. The Buckeyes aren't winning because they're not playing. The Tar Heels aren't playing. So just you can let Linda know what you'd like to pledge to fight Alzheimer's and dementia. And I see Tom Packer texting a message in, but I could only see the header. Maybe Tom's got some happy news. The three words I could see sounded very happy, but I can't see Tom here. So all right, so we're going to move on to well, they were okay, yeah, for next week. I see from Gina, she's donating $5, and saw a message from Tom Packer. So we do have some Happy Dollars coming in and some Cart Bucket pledges. So just keep those coming into Linda. She'll take them down. She'll just add it to the bill, and very easy. So next week, we've got a great speaker today. We've got a great speaker next week, the Honorable Rufus Edmisten, former Attorney General of North Carolina, former Secretary of State of North Carolina, author, is going to speak to us next week. His good friend and classmate and our former president, Reagan Weaver, will introduce Rufus to us, and he'll talk about Tar Heel politics, Watergate, and public life. So we're really looking forward to that next Monday. Okay, a reminder, don't forget to pay your dues. We've had a good response on the dues, but we've got a balanced budget that we've adopted, and so we really need those dues payments to come in to keep us on a balanced budget path. And we can only do that if the members send in their payments promptly, and we ask everyone to please do that. That will put a smile on the face of our treasurer, Tom Packer, who's working extremely hard to keep us in balance and to allow us to keep doing the great work in service that we've been doing. And I just wanted to remind everyone, speaking of that great work, that through our foundation, our club has donated $1,000 each to 4 frontline charities: the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, the Rex Healthcare Foundation, the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, and the Salvation Army. And all of these wonderful organizations are out there helping people during this COVID crisis. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to our membership director, Christy Santacana, for an update.
All right. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. Just a couple quick membership items. We have a second reading today for Dr. Maria Lumpkin, our potential new member. She is sponsored by Jim Dorsett, and she's the interim president of St. Augustine's University. And super interesting that she's the youngest university president and the first female alumni to serve in that role. So very impressive. So if you have any questions, comments, send them my way. We're excited to have her as a potential new member. I think she'd be an awesome addition to our membership. And just secondly, I wanted to give you all a reminder about our next virtual social. So it's Thursday, May 28th at 5:30 p.m. That's our usual 5th meeting day and time. So go ahead and mark your calendars for it. We had a really fun time on our first one a few weeks back. It was just really good to see everyone's face and bring your beverage of choice and meet via Zoom until we can do so in person again. My last item, just a last call for anybody interested in being on this care and concern subcommittee. I'll be sending out those, the list of calls and everything today or tomorrow. And again, this is just a way to kind of keep in touch with our members that don't have as much connectivity and may not be able to join us via Zoom. Make sure everyone's feels loved and remembered and part of the club. So if you're interested, shoot me an email or shoot me a message in the chat over here. But that is it for today.
Thanks so much, Christy. So let's hear from Mark Hackett, if Mark is on, about the Southeast Raleigh Satellite Club. Mark, do you have an update for us?
Hey, Jim and other members. I had a tough time getting a connection last week, so I'll give my brief update, but we'll ask either members from the Southeast Raleigh Club or Linda, or I know Elsa was on, if they have anything further. But, you know, that club is still going strong. Meeting weekly via Zoom. And last week they had a lady by the name of Heather Kiefer, who's with Wake Up Wake County. And they are a voice and resource for for Wake's constituents and support key issues such as climate change, housing, transportation, and education. So she gave an excellent presentation, got some interest, particularly in the area of housing, since homelessness is one of Southeast Raleigh's key objectives to fight. So that's the update I have. If any of those persons have something to add, then feel free to. Okay, I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark. Yeah, that club is really vibrant, and I'm so glad to see some of the members on today. They've actually grown. They've actually added members. And I understand from President-elect Eric Stevens that their club and our club are hatching a plan to create or improve an urban garden in Southeast Raleigh next year once we can get together again in person. So let's see, save the date for May 14th at 5 o'clock for a video conference, and also a service committee meeting. I see here that this is for Gina. I'm going to turn the floor over to Gina now for the tell us about the service committee meeting, Gina, and the projects completed today.
Hi, guys. So we are going to have a meeting on May 14th at 5 p.m. Linda sent out a Zoom invite to everybody that is on the service committee. If you want to join and you're not a part of the committee, please either message me or message Linda so we can make sure we get you that Zoom conference link. So at this meeting, we are going to review the projects that we've had this year, as well as a roadmap or projects for next year, and really kind of come up with what our goals and our focuses are. Also, we will looking for people to lead different components of the service committee, as well as help with the 2021 Day of Service project. And that is where all different clubs in the district will get together for one big day of service. So it's a big undertaking, and our club is one of the clubs that are going to be spearheading it. So it's really, really exciting. So there's a lot of opportunity for leadership as well as service to the community looking forward. So looking forward to having this meeting with you guys on May 14th, 5 o'clock. And hey, maybe bring your beverage of choice as well. It could be a little happy hour as well. Next slide. Perfect. Just want to give you a quick update about our virtual food drive. We did go up in numbers since last week. We have raised a total of $2,642. That does include the $1,000 foundation donation. But really great effort, guys. We've really only been doing this for just over a month, and really be proud of our efforts for this. I know that you guys have heard in the news that food banks are actually running out of food. There's just long lines for people that are looking for food. It's just a very uncertain time. So I'm very proud of our efforts thus far with this food bank and our virtual food drive. So if you need the link or want more information, please email me or talk to me. I'm definitely around for that. This kind of fundraiser will be going on till the end of this month. So hopefully we can raise $3,000. All right, guys, bringing it back to Jim. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Gina. So yeah, the food bank, that's just a fantastic cause and so necessary right now. So I hope every member will make a contribution of some amount, any amount that feels comfortable, to the food bank of Eastern and Central North Carolina. So some anniversaries and birthdays to celebrate today. Martin Wharf and Tommy Kelleher, both born today. We won't ask how long ago, just a few short years ago. So happy birthday to both Martin and Tommy. And then anniversaries.
Went down at $50.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. Another donation just came in. Anniversaries, Sarah and Terry Reeves. Wedding anniversary on May 16th. And Ron and Georgia Smith on May 17th. So happy anniversary to those couples as well. All right, so I am going to give a very brief introduction of our speaker because I want him to have all the time that he needs. But Burke Koonce is a native of Raleigh and has a long lineage in Raleigh and in North Carolina. He married Adora Ragsdale, his father-in-law is George Ragsdale, well-known Raleigh attorney, former law partner of my father. And Burke is in wealth management in a very sophisticated way with Raymond James. But Burke does so many other things in addition to being a husband and father, raising kids and working full-time with Raymond James. He has other hobbies and pursues other interests. And one of those interests is filmmaking. And it's remarkable to me to know someone who has made a film, produced a film that's a financial thriller called Betting on Zero that has made it on Netflix. And not only that, but it's gotten incredible reviews, both from individual viewers, but also the critics. So it's a rare film that's critically acclaimed as well as acclaimed by people who've watched the film. It's available on Netflix right now. And I know some of you, including Linda, have watched the film. Linda watched it over the weekend, gave it a huge thumbs up. So with that very brief introduction, I'd like to turn the floor over to our speaker, Burke Koonce.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. That's a great introduction. And yeah, it's amazing to me to be in a slate of speakers that includes Rufus Edmisten. That's kind of a big honor for me as a longtime North Carolina boy. So it's great. Thank you very much for having me. Val, were we able to queue up the trailer here?
It should be up on the screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes, I can see the picture.
All right. So I thought we'd roll with
What are we going to learn? You're going to learn why Herbalife is going to collapse.
Bill Ackman is on a holy war. A couple times we come across a company we think is causing harm. We can make money betting against that company. Herbalife stock goes down, we make money. Herbalife stock goes up, we lose money. and that's short selling.
How much money have you spent betting against Herbalife?
Over $1 billion.
What are you accusing Herbalife of?
Being a pyramid scheme.
This is a legitimate company. That's a bogus accusation.
Multi-level marketing. They tap into beliefs we have that you can accomplish whatever you want to.
The wildest dreams you've ever thought of can come true in Herbalife.
They took my dreams, my hope to be successful.
Yo perdí $16,000.
Estaba invirtiendo $1,600 o más.
$22,000.
The kind of people that can do that, I mean, they're crooks.
Carl Icahn, the famed hedge fund trader, taking out a big stake in the company, pretty much because he hates Bill Ackman.
Since then, we saw the stock double.
Ackman is a liar. He was like one of these little Jewish boys crying that the world was taking advantage of him.
He essentially could crush Ackman short.
I bought it because I really think it's a good product.
He's not there because he believes in Herbalife's product. He's doing it because he thinks he can make money by squeezing Bill Ackman.
This industry is going to continue to burn people.
We haven't penetrated the markets and communities anywhere close to what we're going to see. And you, with us, it's family, and nobody messes with the family.
All right. Well, thank you for that kind trailer. I hope everybody rushes out to go get it on Netflix now. But anyway, maybe I put the cart a little before the horse. But that's the trailer for the movie that I produced a few years ago. My name is Burke Koonce, and thanks very much for having me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got myself into this mess. I'm a native of Raleigh. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about. So I'll tell you about myself, and then tell you a little bit about the documentary, the subject of the documentary, and then about how we made the documentary, and how it wound up winning a few awards and getting onto Netflix. So I'm a native of Raleigh, and I went to Root Elementary School, Martin Middle School before I was shipped away to boarding school. Then came back and was an English major at Carolina, where I wrote for the Daily Tar Heel. Then after graduating, I wrote about stocks for the Triangle Business Journal before going back to business school. After business school, I moved to New York to be the leisure analyst for Merrill Lynch, meaning that I was responsible for doing research on all the stocks in the leisure group, like Carnival Cruise Lines and Harley Davidson and that sort of thing. And I told my dad I was moving to New York to be the leisure analyst, and they said, "Well, you sure found the right guy for the job." Always leave it up to your dad to put you right in your place. So I spent the next few years researching and writing about these stocks and individual stocks and building financial models and doing earnings projections and so forth. And in the meantime, I wrote a screenplay about a young analyst on Wall Street. Of course, I never had the courage to show it to anybody. And after a few years, after our first child was born, we moved back to North Carolina. And I went to work for a hedge fund that had been a client of mine, and I've been working in the asset management business ever since. Mostly as a research analyst. Someone who spends time ferreting out ideas, investigating them, doing due diligence, writing reports. You're basically paid to read the newspaper and magazines and read financial statements and that sort of thing. It's very monk-like. I've since joined a firm, Raymond James, about 3 years ago, where I have more of a client-facing role. So they're going to let me talk to other human beings for a while. We'll see how that goes. But most of my career, even now, is spent looking for investment ideas. And anyway, for about 7 years prior to joining Raymond James, I had a little company called Helicon Research. And Helicon Research sold investment ideas to asset managers, mutual funds, hedge funds, and I would write about the economy and inflation and industries, banking, cruise lines, what have you, anything that my clients really wanted to learn about. And one of my clients was an old friend of mine from UNC. And I was working on a research assignment for this particular client who wanted to learn about multi-level marketing companies. Does everybody here know what that is? Multi-level marketing? It's pyramid selling, and some of these are pretty well known. Amway, Herbalife, prepaid legal, Rodan and Fields. Anyway, all these companies have operated for years in this strange legal gray area. They're lightly regulated. Everybody knows somebody who's been involved in these things, and some are, maybe more on the up and up than others. They're not illegal. They just operate in this weird legal gray area. And what attracted us to look at them was they're very, very profitable. And what I mean by that, well, they have huge gross margins. So they're, what their cost is to make these products is very low in comparison to what they sell them for. And usually companies have they have really high gross margins, spend a lot of money on advertising, or they have a proprietary product or something like that, or a great brand. And you think of a company like McDonald's that has a 51% gross margin. They have a wonderful brand, and or Coca-Cola has a gross margin of 63%, or Tiffany of 60 some odd percent. These are Warren Buffett style businesses that attract great investors because of their great numbers. And we started digging into these multi-level marketing companies, and this one called New Skin has a gross margin of 78%, and Herbalife has one of 80%. Now, just to put that in perspective, Red Hat down the street has a gross margin of 84%. That's software. Those are really smart guys over there. And in Herbalife's case, they're selling nutritional supplements. It's diet powder. And so we're thinking, how do you sell diet powder at that kind of margin? It's amazing. They've got this product called Formula One, and they were selling a lot of it. They're selling about $2 billion a year. And just for perspective, Clorox is 100 years old, and Herbalife's 40 years old, and they're selling a lot more Formula One than Clorox sells Clorox. They're selling more than Palmolive. The brand's almost as large as Oreo, and we're thinking, this is the biggest $2 billion brand that nobody's ever heard of. And so, you don't have to be a crackerjack financial analyst to get curious about this sort of thing. So, what makes an MLM different from most businesses? Well, it's that, you sign it up and you sell it for yourself. You become a distributor, and you sign your friends up to become distributors too. So you can earn commissions. Now, why you would invite your friends to become your competitors, that's kind of that's an interesting question that we thought was interesting. But anyway, the shakes are bundled with these protein shakes are bundled with the business opportunity. So we looked at the numbers, and we discovered that 93% of the people that sold this stuff make zero, and only the top 1% of people in the company make $6,000 a year. That's gross. And so and yet they're touting all these millionaires, and the way it's marketed is that you want to aspire to get in this millionaires club, but even if you're in the millionaires club, you're you're grossing about $97,000 a year, which is a good living, but it's not $1 million. So they're selling this business opportunity, and it doesn't seem to be much of a business opportunity. So we're thinking, what? Maybe we're looking at a pyramid scheme. And so you hide the scheme behind the product. That's just kind of a money transfer scheme. So, and I don't want to stand up here and say, that if you've ever done one of these things, you're a bad person, because you're not. I mean, like, I've got family members that do this sort of thing. But I will say that if you really try to make a go at it as a business, as opposed to a hobby or a reason to have a party, then it's a slippery slope, right? Because if you've gotten in early, that's great, but the same opportunity doesn't exist for people below you. And they're not all the same. I mean, for example, Avon, they pay a couple levels and then there's no payout, and it's more like traditional direct selling. Some of you might be familiar with Fuller brushes and door-to-door selling. That's direct selling. This is what we discovered with companies like Herbalife was it's a little bit different. Herbalife pays a commission down to infinity, or they did. It's like 11 people below you getting a commission, which is not really like having a paper out and maybe getting a few nickels from the kid who you brought in to sell papers right under you. And Herbalife would say things like, well, you sell to 6 friends and they sell to 6 friends, and soon you got this big downline. But what they don't tell you is that once you get to 13 levels, you've already exceeded the population of the earth. So, the money at the top is the loss of the people at the bottom. I mean, it's by design. Anyway, so all these businesses, they have, their hallmarks are exaggerated earnings claims. If I can do it, you can do it. Typically there's a history of lawsuits. They target the financially unsophisticated, and the complex compensation rules, because they don't want to make it obvious that it's that it's largely futile. And there's also something uniquely American about the pitch. If you just work harder and smarter, you'll get there. It's the American dream. It's the American way. And in fact, that's where the name Amway comes from. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, what company's goal really is to recruit an army of inexperienced salespeople and on full commission with limited oversight and without any regard for demand. And so we just thought it was really kind of screwy. And if you take 10 minutes and do a Google search of some of these companies, you can find scores of crazy people hawking everything from, the fountain of youth to cures of cancer. And so, I'm sitting around with my client, my good friend, and he says, somebody ought to make a movie out of this. And he said, well, you wrote that screenplay, you used to write for the Daily Target, that sort of thing. It's like, go figure it out. And so that's how we started down the road of what turned into this documentary. The original plan was to go get some video testimony from distributors who'd been ripped off. And we started down this road, and we quickly ran into a challenge. People who've lost money don't want to talk about it. And typically they pulled in their family members and their friends, and they lose their social networks as a result of this. It's kind of a form of social cancer. And so we were hitting some bumps in the road, and we did not have great expectations. We were talking to some obscure attorneys general and some consumer advocates, and we figured the whole thing was probably bound for YouTube or something that nobody would ever see. And then out of the blue, Bill Ackman, who is a pretty well-known hedge fund guy in New York, comes out and goes on TV and says, "I've found the biggest pyramid scheme in the history of the United States, and it's Herbalife." And for those of you who may watch CNBC from time to time, he was just on TV he was back in the news recently for correctly calling the big sell-off in February, and made a lot of money betting against. Well, he was really hedging his bet against his portfolio, but he managed not to lose very much money in the sell-off because he shorted some things that went down. So anyway, we see, all right, well, Bill Ackman sees this. Maybe we're not crazy. He sees it too. And all of a sudden this story about Herbalife is all over every financial news network in the country. And so we thought, all right, well, if we're going to do this, this is now much bigger than anything we can do on our own. We need help. Let's put together a team. So the first thing you should do after you figured out that you want to make a documentary is to write a treatment. And so what that means is you're writing a summary of what you want to do. It's in some ways it's kind of like a deal memorandum. In other ways, it's like a short story, And so I wrote one, and that's pretty much all I knew how to do. And we needed a director, but what we really needed was a producer that had some idea what was going on. We needed anybody. And so we did find our way in front of one producer who was pretty well known. His name is Glenn Zipper, and Glenn had just won an Oscar for a film called Undefeated, which is about an inner city high school football team from Memphis. And it's excellent. I recommend it. And so he liked it enough. He liked the treatment enough to talk to us. And so, but in order to hire Glenn, we had to have an idea about what the film budget was. And of course we had none. So we came up with a budget. So you can probably hear my son in the other room taking an oral exam. I apologize. These are the trials and tribulations of the pandemic. But so we came up with a budget, and it was basically, how much can we afford to lose? and you can spend $10,000 on a documentary film, or you can spend $2 million on a documentary film. And we decided that we would go somewhere in the middle. And we figured it'd be better if we spent some money on a film that was likely to be watched where we'd have some kind of positive return on capital, rather than one that was basically just, lighting a stack of $100 bills on fire and leaving the back of a taxi cab. So you need insurance and publicity and budget for travel and musicians and color correcting. And so all these things that you could never, think of on your own, we had to, make a budget for. And so the producer's biggest responsibilities are helping us, put together a budget and hire a director and promote the film. So Glenn says, well, I've got a stack of DVDs I want you to watch. And we'll watch these DVDs and we'll see if we can find a director that you like. And so we watched a bunch of movies. And we decided to talk to the director of a film called Darfur Now. And the director's name was Ted Braun. And he became one of my very best friends. Ted wasn't just some Hollywood goofball. He was is a tenured professor at the University of Southern California, teaching screenwriting. And he just made this film Darfur Now. And we thought, well, if he's okay being chased around by Sudanese militiamen with AK-47s, he's probably tough enough for us. So he was great, and he took my treatment and pretty much threw everything in the toilet. His idea was just to focus on Herbalife versus Bill Ackman, and not explore and just focus on that, as opposed to make it a gripe list about all the bad things that these companies may have done. And he said he would do it, but he said, I'm not going to be a paid shill if you guys are out just to, take a position in the stock. So you guys have to promise you can't be involved. And at this point, we were so excited about the story that we thought, you know what, we'll just do it anyway. We promise we won't trade in the stock at all. And he had final cut, which meant that he had, final say over everything in the film. And what he wrote bore very little resemblance to my draft, but it was a very good decision. And John, my partner, told Ted, look, if we find out these companies are really great, we want to know that. So we greenlighted the film in February 2013. And the next thing we had a tiger by the tail. Ken Burns' director of photography signed on, and we approached Bill Ackman about following him around, and he said yes. And then we followed around, and we approached Herbalife about the same thing, and they said no. So the fact they wouldn't cooperate was kind of a tell. And then and that pretty much deep sixed Ted's original plan to have their involvement, and we had to go to plan B, which was use footage that we could find to kind of present their side of the story. And my role was in production was research and running the business side of the production company. I wrote a weekly report about the industry, handled the budgets, negotiated the contracts, made sure the trains ran on time. Every week I'd send my report to the director and the other producers and the whole crew. And every week for more than 2 years, Ted would send back, send it all back covered in red ink, covered with editorial improvements. Film directors like everything just so. And so the best day ever was when I got my report back and it didn't have any edits, and I felt like I laid an egg. And we called ourselves Biltmore Films because we thought it would make it seem like it had gravitas. It took us 2 years to shoot it, and Ted went out and found distributors, community activists, former distributors. We had to wait for stuff to happen because it was filmed in sort of the verite style, where we're watching things actually unfold, and we didn't know how it was going to end up. And so we'd have to wait for a court date, or wait for a protest, or wait for Bill to make a presentation, and Bill would campaign against the company, and the company would fire back at him. And then Carl Icahn, one of the richest men in the country, got involved on the other side, and it became this clash of the titans. And we would go to DC, and we'd go to Chicago and Los Angeles to film. And after a couple of years, we didn't really know where we were going, and the film does achieve a certain resolution, but it's kind of stressful when you don't really know. It's not like a scripted screenplay where you know what you're going to get. And so when Ted showed us the rough cut for the first time, it was pretty emotional. So I want to again give Ted all the credit for making it more than just a Wall Street story. I mean, he was really able to connect and tell the stories of people who had been victimized, and keep the focus on their real struggles. It was so much more than weighing in on which billionaire was right. So once it was filmed, we had to figure out we're going to get distribution. So we made this sizzle reel, which is like a trailer to give to festival organizers. And we premiered at Tribeca in April of 2016. And film festivals are basically industry conventions for the film industry. We chose Tribeca because it was a New York story, and Glenn helped us get it in there, and that's part of what a producer does. And we sold out all of our screenings at Tribeca. And the funny thing was, when we were trying to get tickets for ourselves, turns out that well, none of the tickets were available. And we thought, oh no, Herbalife's bought up all the tickets. They don't want anybody to see the movie. We never dreamed that we would actually sell it out 5 times, which is what happened. But we were right about one thing. They were watching. The company launched a counterattack. They put up an attack website before anyone had ever seen the movie. They hired a bunch of Twitter trolls and sicked their PR people on us. Heather Podesta, the big famous DC lobbyist, said awful things about us. And so we didn't sell it at Tribeca, and it got really quiet. Distributors were wary of taking this on because it was controversial, and the company was obviously trying to hinder us. And the company was leafleting our screenings in Tribeca and other places. And then there was this other bias. Hollywood didn't know what to do with a billionaire Wall Street good guy. It kind of made their head explode. It just didn't fit with their worldview. And even though the film is not a Valentine to Bill Ackman by any stretch. So then a couple of months go by, and now we're late summer, and maybe in the fall. And so we're in Washington, D.C. for a screening at the National Portrait Gallery, and it got sold out. And but this time they did buy up all the tickets to the screening. And somebody at the ticket office noticed what had happened. All of the tickets went on to Heather Podesta's credit card. And so they bought up 173 seats because they didn't want anybody in D.C. to see the film. Well, what they didn't know was that we had been collaborating for a couple of months with John Oliver on an episode that he was already going to produce about multi-level marketing. And John picked up on that story, that they bought up all the seats, and he just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so it completely backfired for Herbalife. They made explicit mention of the film on HBO where the show was, and his great line was, "Look, if they don't want somebody to see a movie, just tell them it stars Shia LaBeouf." So anyway, that it aired on Friday, and I think on Monday morning Netflix called and said, we'd like to license your movie for 3 years. And we pretty much said, okay. You didn't really negotiate that hard with it. We negotiated a little bit, but we were thrilled that, a couple of goofballs, we felt like we got really lucky. So what did we really do? Well, so I think we added value by being able to help a film crew tell a Wall Street story in a way that's very, it felt very inside baseball. I think you could tell that people that had spent some time in finance knew what was going on. It doesn't feel like an eat your vegetables documentary. And anyway, it was great. We felt like we were pretty good at it. We're still looking for other things to do. They're kind of in that genre of financial thrillers. Because most of what you see when Hollywood portrays Wall Street is the bad guys, and the capitalists are the bad guys, and there really is a bias against business in Hollywood. Again, at a very well thought of, perhaps maybe the best independent film distributor, they said, "Look, I think it's great, but I'm not going to do anything to help make that guy look good." So, meaning Bill Ackman. But what I think the movie really accomplished was it shows how the system can be bent by both sides looking for an advantage. And I thought the film raised some good questions. And, like, what's the right yardstick for measuring the legitimacy of a company? And what's the right yardstick for measuring personal success? In the end, it's really, is Wall Street really the right place to make a moral argument? So that's a little bit about me, and a little bit than you want to know about the multi-level marketing industry, and a little bit about making a documentary. So anyway, thank you for having me. Maybe I'll try to roll the first couple minutes of the film if we have time. I'll see if I can get this right. Hang on one second. Thank you. Wait, I forgot I'm still like.
be the most important presentation that I've made in my career. So how's that for raising expectations?
What are we going to learn?
You're going to learn why Herbalife is going to collapse. And that's a pretty strong statement, but this is the largest fraud in terms of scale, of countries involved, harm to people.
And right now, we are joined by the CEO of Herbalife, Michael Johnson. He has called in.
First of all, guys, this isn't about Herbalife's business model. This is about Bill Ackman's business model. This is blatant market manipulation. We're not a pyramid scheme. That's a bogus accusation. This is a legitimate company. We've been in business 32 years. Millions of customers around the world. Mr. Ackman's proposition that the United States will be better when Herbalife is gone, the United States will be better when Bill Ackman's gone.
Good. How you doing? Clock, countdown clock. Do you want time of day or do you want to count time? What do you mean? We have the speaker timer.
Just count going up.
Count going up from 0?
Yeah.
You got it. Thank you, sir.
The company is clearly panicking. They know what we have.
They say, Bill, that Herbalife continues to face an unprecedented attack to support your billion-dollar bet to manipulate and drive Herbalife's stock price to 0.
Seems like all of Wall Street is against you.
Ackman is a liar. You scare the hell out of people, get the stock down, and tells the world how great he is.
You still believe this company's worth 0?
Yes.
The company is the goose that laid the golden egg. Trust.
You guys still there? You guys there?
Yes.
Yeah, we're here.
All right.
We're still here.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yep. Audio came through just fine.
Good, 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 good.
Great job.
Well, thank you. Well, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any. But I appreciate everybody's time. This has been a great honor for me to share my experience.
I do have a question in the chat. I'm looking at the stock market chart for the last 10 years. The stock price is not down. How would you respond to the possibility that the stock price shows that the world does not believe the negative information about Herbalife?
They didn't. I think Bill's, without giving a movie away, or maybe you've already seen it, but the Bill's a very confident individual, and he felt like that he could get if he gave his trove of research to the FTC, that they would agree, they'd come to the same conclusion. But what I think he failed to appreciate was what an impossible position that put the FTC in. It would look like they were doing the work of a billionaire who was going to make money off of it. And so what they did was they fined him $200 million, which at the time was the largest consumer fine in the history of the FTC. But they did not shut them down. And the other thing was that Herbalife and a lot of these multi-marketing companies, they mostly operate overseas anyway. And so a lot of it was beyond the reach of the FTC. So Bill eventually had to cover his position. He basically lost the bet.
Another question in the chat from Kirk Warner. What actually happened at the National Art Gallery showing with the packed adverse crowd? Did they actually sit through it? Any whistleblowers from it?
Well, they, I think, memory serves, we did get some people in there. We got quite a good crowd. I think once we figured out what was going on, they sold more tickets than there were seats, and then people who wanted to come actually could come. So it turned out to be a fun night.
All right, Elsa, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Valerie, we also have a question from Tom.
Right. I saw Elsa's hand first.
Okay.
So a couple of things. Number one, congratulations. My brother is a film editor and teaches at UCLA. So I have a tremendous appreciation over many years of what you went through to put this together. So how did Ackman feel when basically he was defeated? That's part A. And then I'm going to watch it tonight because I think it's really exciting. And there's so many multi-level marketing companies out there. I mean, what do you do with all of them?
Sure. So to answer your first question, Bill took it in stride. Bill, like I said, he's so his confidence often comes across as supreme arrogance, which was actually a problem for us because he's not a warm and fuzzy guy, and I think while I know that he thought he was doing the right thing here, I think his ego turned some people off. But he, at the end of the day, he was making them invest on behalf of his hedge fund, so he had other investors to answer to, and so he closed the short when it became obvious that that the FTC was not going to shut the company down, and so at the end of the day, I think he tried to be pragmatic about it. He had some other blowups at the time, and so we thought we could have made the movie just the rise and fall of Bill Ackman because. Mm-hmm. When we started working with him, he was on the rise, and then he had a couple of high-level issues where things went against him. But he has since done very well, so he's still riding pretty high. And again, relating to other multi-level marketing companies, I mean, they're not against the law, and they're just some of them run afoul of the law, but and that's what makes them such queer things to try to evaluate. Because they're in this weird little gray area. So I would just say, just make sure that you know what you're doing, and I wouldn't go bananas buying a bunch of inventory you're going to have a hard time selling. But the FTC has taken steps to try to protect consumers and distributors by limiting the amount of inventory that you can buy without a refund, and making sure that you sell to X number of people in a certain amount of time. And so they've tried to take some of the worst practices out of the industry, and so I would just say, buyer beware.
Thank you.
And
again,
Tom Packer, Tom Packer asked, how is Herbalife doing today? Did you already answer that?
Well, so they've been impacted by the pandemic, obviously, because you can't go to a nutrition club and hang out and buy shakes or recruit people. And so it's been tough. And and of course they have a huge business in China. And interestingly, China is harder on these companies than America is, because they look at them as cults, and they look at it as being something that's unpatriotic and subversive. And so, but they have managed to, I mean, the stock was way down because of the pandemic. It's come back some, and I think as things open up, I think they'll benefit like everybody else.
Any other questions? Jim, looks like it's back to you.
All right. Thanks, Valerie. Burke, thanks for a fascinating talk. That's just amazing. A Raleigh guy, someone I've known for many years, who is working, as some others we know, in asset management, produces a film that's on Netflix. So that's quite a story. And I look forward to seeing your next project, and we look forward to having you back as a speaker at a future meeting. And we also hope you'll consider joining our club. Not to put you on the spot in front of all of our members or anything, but it'd be a great fit for you and for the club. All right, so we will, let's see, we've got an announcement about the Southeast Raleigh Club tomorrow. Their program is, they're presenting Tiffany Elder of Paradigm Properties, and I believe that's at 5:30. Is that correct? I think I see Valerie giving a thumbs up on that.
No, 6:30, I think. Yeah, it's 6:30.
6:30. Okay, thank you. So that's going to be a great program. All right. Well, really appreciate everyone attending today. We've had a great meeting again. So let's end our meeting, as we do always, with the four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
R-O-T-A-R-Y. That spells rotary. Very good.
All right. I'm going to ring us out with the Himalayan bell, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.